Hi all, welcome back to this screencast. In the last video we saw how to render a template by using a task, and in this video we'll be seeing how to render the comment section and using the other form of range that we discussed. So let's start by defining the comment structure. A comment will have only three elements in our program, which is the content of the comment, the author who wrote it, and the time in which she created the comment. Now we'll also add an ID to our task, and we'll be using that in our template, and we'll be having another element inside the task which will handle an array of comments. Now what we'll have to do is we have to instantiate a comment. So comment will have the content, then its author, and then the created date. The next element is adding the comments section to our task variable. Now we need to create the variable comments, which we so gladly used inside this comments section. We create it, and what we do is we append it. So every task where which there are three inside our current rendering is going to have every task is going to have two of such comments, and the value of that comment would be here. So that is about it. That is about the go part of comments. Now let's jump to our templates. As I said, there are two ways of using a range. By using range like this, we just have to call in the elements inside that array. But if we use key and value, then we have to use $value dot title. This works exactly in the same way as the normal Go program works. This would be the key, that is the index of that element inside the array, and the value would be assigned to $value. Here we are not using the $key attribute, and still the template renders. Hence there is no such thing as unused variables will cause an syntax error like we have in Go. So this is one aspect that we need to be aware about. So what I'll do now, I'll be replacing title and content with $value. Then I need to add the range of comments. Now we saw that task has a element called comments. So what I'll be doing is I'll be doing $value dot comments, and I'll be ranging over it. And when I do that, I'll be replacing this sample comment. Oh, I have to add this end because it won't understand where the range ends. And I'll be replacing this sample comment with content, just dot content, and the uh, author name with author, and the timestamp with created. So that is about adding comments. So I'll save it quickly and I'll run it. Now server is running, so I'll go to localhost and it got rendered. So you can see that I have this 2 or 3 elements. So I have these 3 tasks. As of now, this dummy is hard coded. We can do that also later. And in all these 3 tasks, we have 2 comments each, and the contents are exactly same because that is what we wrote inside our program. So a logical next step, which would be to have the database set up, and instead of hard coding these values, we'll just fetch them from the database and populate it. So that would require us to write the code to interact with the database. But until we have that functionality, database would just be an overhead, since there might be issues with the database. So whenever writing programs, it is advisable to create mock-up structures which feed data to the front end rather than directly starting with a database. A database can be a drop-in replacement for these structures, because once you have the ability to populate a template, then it is just a matter of minutes or less than half an hour to replace that with using some database related functionality. Of course, the architecture of the database and the database design and things, it takes more than half an hour. But hooking up the database is not a big deal, and that should never be the first priority. The first priority should be to have a backend which can comfortably talk with a front end. That is the HTML page. So in this video we saw how to use the range function. You can see that the rest of the code is untouched. The end which we had for our earlier range is intact. We just added a bunch of functionality. So over here I would like to point that this fact out. It was very simple for us to go from that basic HTML to rendering this complete three tasks. Of course, the basic HTML was already written and we just had to write the drop-in replacement for Go. But even by that, we just wrote or added 4 lines. I mean, which transformed into a well maintainable code, and that is why Go language is very powerful. With minimal code changes, you can do maximum, and that is basically the mantra of Go, that less is more and simplicity. So that is all about this video. In the next video, we'll be adding more elements like populating the value of ID and tidying up the front end part. Plus, we have to handle the case where there are no tasks at all visible. So we'll be passing an empty task object, empty context object to the front end, and we'll be seeing what happens to that. So that is all for this video. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for the next one.